Let's learn a shtickle Toldos Shimshon on Perekei Avos Perik Vav Mishnah Aleph. The Mishnah starts off Remeir Oimer Kol ha'oisik b'Torah l'shma. Anyone who learns Torah l'shma zoiche l'dvarim harbe. He's zoiche to a lot of things. And last year we discussed the first half of the Mishnah. Now let's continue the second half of the Mishnah. The Mishnah lists all the milas and attributes that one who learns Torah l'shma is zoiche to. And the Mishnah continues, V'nene mimeno eitza v'sashia. That people enjoy asking him advice, and they enjoy his advice. Bina, he gets understanding, ugvura, and strength. Shenema, like the pasuk says, Li eitza v'sashia. I, the Torah, have all the eitzes, all the advice. Ani bina, in the Torah, is all understanding, li gvura, and all strength come from the Torah. V'noisenes lo malchus, it gives the person who's learning Torah malchus, he's like a king, umemshola, and like a ruler. V'chikr din, and he knows how to investigate a din. Umagalan lo roze Torah, and it gets revealed to him the secrets of the Torah. V'nase kemayin hamizgaber, he becomes like a spring that just keeps on getting stronger. Ukenor she'ein poisik, and like a river that doesn't stop flowing. V'have tzenua, and he should be a tzenua, have the meat of tznius. Ve'erech ruach, and he should not be quick to get angry. Umoichel al boinoi, and he forgives his embarrassment, even if someone embarrasses him, he forgives him. And it raises him above all the creations of the world, above all the people. One who learns Torah l'shma is raised above everyone else. So the Toldos Shimshon explains, as he explained the first half of the Mishnah, that all these milas in the Mishnah are corresponding to the Aleph Beis that the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos Daf Kuf Daled goes through each Aleph Beis, what it stands for, each of the oisius through the Aleph Beis. And in the first half of the Mishnah that we learned last year, the Mishnah was corresponding to the oisius Aleph through Lamed. And this half of the Mishnah that we're learning now is corresponding to Mem until Sof. So the Gemara in Masechta Shabbos continues going through the Aleph Beis, and it says, what's a Mem? What does Mem stand for? So the Gemara says, there are two Mems, there's Mem Psucha and Mem Stuma. There's an open Mem and a closed Mem, which we call the Ender Mem. That's Maimer Pasuach, Maimer Sosum. That means sometimes there are things that should be said in learning, there are things that you should darshan, and certain things are supposed to be kept a secret. The Mem is Maimer. Things that are said, Maimer Sosum and Maimer Pasuach. Maimer Psucha, the Mem Psucha is things that you should say, and the Mem Stuma, things that you should not say. Maimer Pasuach, Maimer Sosum. Nun, there are also two Nuns. There's the Nun and the Ender Nun. Nun Kfufa, which is bent over, and the Nun Pshuta, which is straight, standing tall. That means to tell us Nemon Kofuf. Nemon is a tzaddik. He should be bent over. He should be noyig with anivas, and then he'll be tall. If his whole life he's bent over and he's machnia and he's a onov and he's humble, then he'll end up being Nemon Poshut. He'll be standing tall. He'll be the long Endenun. Samach Ayin. What does Samach Ayin stand for? So one pshat in the Gemara is Smoich Aniyim. You shall hold up and help Aniyim stand. Lishna Achrina, another pshat in the Gemara is Samach Ayin stands for Simonim Asay. That when someone learns Torah, he should make Simonim in order to remember his learning. He should make signs in order to help him remember. Pei, what does Pei stand for? There are two Peis. There's a Pei and an Endefei. There's again Pe Pasuach, sometimes the things you should say, Pe Sosum. Sometimes you shouldn't say. Now this is a little different than the mem pesucha and mem stuma. Mem pesuach and mem stuma was certain parts of Torah should not be darshened. Over here, pe pesuach, pe sasam, sometimes a person shouldn't darshan. If there's other people that could teach, then he could keep his mouth closed. When there's nobody else teaching, then pe pesuach, then he has to teach. But when there's people greater than him teaching, then pe sasam, then he should be the closed pay. What tzaddik? There's also tzaddik kefufa and tzaddik pshuta. There's the folded tzaddik and the tzaddik that stands tall. So there again, the Gemara says tzaddik kofuf, tzaddik poshut. A tzaddik should be bent over, should have anivus, and then he'll stand tall. And here the Gemara asks, this is what we learned from the nun. The two nuns, we said nun was nemon kofuf and nemon poshut. So why do we need a tzaddik and a tzaddik to teach us the same thing? That a tzaddik should be bent over and then he'll stand tall. So the Gemara says, because hoisiv l'cha akosov kfifa al kfifasoi. In order to learn Torah, it's not enough to have one level of anivus. You need a double dosage of anivus. Mikan shanitna Torah. From here we learned that the Torah was given b'menoid roish, totally to humble people, extra humble. What's kuf reish? So the Gemara says kuf is Kaddish. That's the Eibishter is Kaddish. Reish is a Rasha. And the Gemara says, my time mahada ape the kuf mi reish. Why is the reish facing the other way and its back is towards the kuf? Because the kuf is the Eibishter. Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter says, I can't look at the face of a Rasha. Ein ani yochel listakel b'Rasha. Kuf is the Eibishter. He can't look at the face of the Rasha. Therefore, the Rasha, the reish, which corresponds to the Rasha, is facing the other way. My time, the Gemara asks that the tag of the kuf on the top of the head of the kuf in the Sefer Torah, there's a line going up which is next to the reish. Why is there like a crown on top of the kuf, on the corner of the kuf, next to the reish? Because the Eibishter says, because if the Rosh is going to do tshuva, then the crown is waiting there to be put on him. And the Gemara asks, why is the leg of the kuf not attached to the head of the kuf? Why is there opening space between the head of the kuf and the leg? Because if the Rosh wants, he has an opening right away to come right in. The reish is after the kuf, and he could come right into the opening. And the Gemara continues and says, the last two oisiyas are shin, tov. Shin is sheker, and tov is emes. And the Gemara says, why sheker? All the three letters of sheker are right next to each other. Kuf, rei, shin are the letters that make up the word sheker. They're right next to each other in the aleph base. And emes are the furthest apart. The aleph is the beginning of the aleph base, mem is at the beginning, and sof is at the end. So the Gemara says, because sheker is very common, so therefore all the letters are next to each other, because sheker is very common, unfortunately, in the world. Masha'enken emes is not common, and therefore it's aleph at the beginning, mem at the in the middle, and sof at the end. And finally, the Gemara says, why is sheker have the shin has one is standing on one base, the shin, and the word emes and the shin, kuf, reish all have one leg, and emes all have double foundation under the letters emes. Aleph has two legs on the bottom, it's standing on two legs. Mem is a complete foundation on the bottom. Sof has two legs. So why is sheker? Each letter in the word sheker only has one leg, because sheker falls away, it can't stand. Emes is on a strong foundation and it stands forever. So based on this, the Toldos Shimshon says, is the rest of our Mishnah. The Mishnah says, one who learns Torah Lishma is v'nenin mimenu eitzav v'shashiyah. People enjoy and appreciate his advice. So he says that's corresponding to the mem psucha and mem stuma. The Gemara said sometimes you should talk, sometimes you shouldn't talk. That means even when you give advice, you should only give advice to people that want to listen to your advice. Don't give advice to people that are not interested. So sometimes you should have a mem psucha, sometimes your words should be open, sometimes they should be closed. That's mem and end the mem. What's nun and end the nun? So we said nun was if someone, the first nun is a bent over nun, the second nun is the end the nun is a nun that stands tall. So even a Talmud that's learning by his Rebbe, and he already got to the level of Bina, he already got to the level of understanding, still he should hold himself back from arguing with his Rebbe. And that's what the Mishnah is referring to when the Mishnah says Bina and Gvura. That even though he's already a Nun, and he's a Tzaddik, and he already is on the level of Bina, he understands learning, but he should have Gvura. He should have the power to overcome his Yetzer Hara, and then he'll end up being a Nun Pshuta. If he's a Nun Kfufa, he's a bent over Nun to his Rebbe, then he'll be a Nun Pshuta. Then he'll end up being standing tall. And if he bends over to his Rebbe, Nun Kofuf, then he'll be a Nun Posher to his Talmidim will respect him. So that's what the Mishnah means, Bina or Gvura. Even if you got to the level of Bina, but you should still have the Midah of Gvura, not to argue with your Rebbe. You'll be a Nemon Kofuf. You'll be a Nun that's bent over to your Rebbe, then you'll be a Nun Poshut. And the Mishnah continues and says that it's someone who learns Torah, L'shmo noisenes loy malchus umemsholah. He gets to be like a king and a ruler. So the Toldos Shimshon says that's corresponding to the Samach Ayin. Because the Gemara said Samach Ayin was Simonim Asay. When one is learning, he should make signs in order to remember his learning. And if you don't make Simonim, then you'll forget your learning. So the Malchus means a Talmud Chacham. The Gemara says, Man Malki, who's a Melech, who's a king? Rabbanon, a Talmud Chacham. So if someone is going to be Samach Ayin, someone is going to, when he's learning, he makes Simonim in his learning, then he'll be Malchus, he'll get Malchus, he'll be like a king, a Talmud Chacham. Memsholah. Memsholah is he'll rule over the whole Torah. The Torah will become mamish like his. Because it says that after one toils in Torah, then the Torah becomes his, and he becomes a ruler over the Torah. That's Samach Ayin. Then the Mishnah continues, the one who learns Torah L'shma, he gets Chikur Din. He knows how to investigate and interrogate Eidim when they come in front of him to a Din. That's Chikur Din. And that's corresponding to Pei. Pei Kfufa and Pei Pshuta. We said that the Pei Kfufa, Pei Pshuta means that sometimes you have to say certain things, sometimes you shouldn't, sometimes you be quiet. Same thing when Eidim come in front of you, you have to know the right questions to ask in order to interrogate him correctly, that not to make him not want to talk, the right things to say that he should want to give Eidus. So that's Pei and Endefei. And furthermore says the Toldos Shimshon, Umagalan loy rozei Torah. It gets revealed to him the secrets of learning, of Torah. That even though we said earlier that the Pei, the Mem, sometimes you should say things, sometimes you shouldn't say things in learning. Certain parts of learning are not to be dashed in public. But if someone's going to learn Torah L'shma, then the Eibush is going to let him know who the right person to teach it to. So Pei Kfufa and Pei Pshuta is your mouth sometimes should be open, sometimes should be closed. When you have the right Talmud that's ready to learn from you the secrets of Torah, then you should have a Pei Pasuach. When it's the wrong Talmud, then they'll give you Siyat D'Shmaya to know to have your mouth closed and not teach it to him. And the Mishnah continues, moving on to Tzaddik and End Tzaddik. So what is that? So the Gemara said that Tzaddik and End Tzaddik was the same as Nun and the Nun, that you should be an extra Onov. And on that the Mishnah says, if someone's an extra Onov, then Nasa K'mayim She'eina Poisik, he becomes like a spring that doesn't stop giving off water. Because the Gemara says, Midbar Matoner, that if someone makes himself like a midbar, he's open to everybody, whoever he's hefker. then the Torah is given to him as a matana. So that's K'mayim she'eina poisik. It's a matana from Shemayim that the Torah never stops. He just gets greater and greater in Torah because he's a tzaddik kofuf. And tzaddik kofuf was in addition to being a nun kofuf, and in addition to being a nun that's already a tzaddik that's bent over and being noig with anivus, the tzaddik is even adding to that anivus. And then he gets a matana min hashemayim, that he gets matana of Torah that doesn't stop. And the Mishnah continues, v'hava tzanua, one should be a tzanua, have the meat of tznius, which is corresponding to the letter kuf. Kuf was Kodesh, Kedusha, and Tznius go together. And the Mishnah continues and says, Ve'erech Ruach, and he should not be quick to get angry. This is referring to the Reish, we said, was the Rosha. And the Eibishter says, I'm the Kuf, and the Tag on top of the Kuf, the crown on top of the Kuf is facing the Rosha, because if the Rosha is ever going to do tshuva, then the crown is ready there to give him. And the leg of the kuf is open, it's not attached to the head, because this way the reish could come right back and do tshuva. So if we're going in the ways of the Eibishter, v'hava tzanua, you're being a Kodesh like the Eibishter, but you also have to have erech ruach. You have to have patience with the Rosha and not be quick to get angry at him, just like the Eibishter. U'moichel al boinoi, the Mishnah continues, and you have to forgive even if he embarrasses you. Even if the Rosh embarrasses you, you forgive and you give him a chance to do tshuva just like the Eibishter does. And if someone does all these things, then he reaches the final shin and tov, which is the Gemara says shin was sheker, tov was emes, and the Gemara says emes lasts forever because it's on strong foundations. Each letter in emes has two legs, has a strong foundation, and each letter in sheker has one leg that it'll fall away. Is someone who learns Torah Lishma, and zoichet all the above, and megadaltoi umeramamtoi al kol hamasim, and raises him above everything. Everything else will fall away like sheker. But the one who learns Torah Lishma, he'll be zoichet to the letter Tov, which is the letter Emes, that it brings him above, and he lasts forever above all other maisim. That's how the Toldos Shimshon explains this Mishnah. In the schus of the Zera Shimshon, may we be zoich the bracha and atzlocha b'chol ha'inyonim.